Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight we are joined by Miesha Johnston. This is her second time on the show. We had her on originally on episode 92, I believe, and where she told some of her story and some of her testimony. It was really interesting. I highly recommend going back and listening to it if you haven't heard that yet. And Miesha, first of all, I want to say thank you for everything you're doing in this. Like, I've been following you and watching you for a long time. You have your host of Starseed Awakening Radio, if people don't know that, but the support groups that you have and the weekly meetups, I think that's amazing because you're helping survivors of trafficking and PTSD veterans, abductees, and you even have a support group for newly awakened starseeds. I know what it takes to put on this show and the amount of effort and hours you have, and we're doing what you're doing. I truly appreciate what you're doing. On top of the Oracle decks that you have, the ET Experiencer Oracle decks, what's it called? The Unimaginable, your new one?
Yes, the ET Experiencer, the Unimaginable.
Right. And then you're also an author. You have the author of Galactic Genealogy, Planetary Origins, They Weren't Butterflies, A Monarch Survivor's Story, and Covert Abductions. You're busy.
Yes,
and obviously...
Yeah. And I'm a hypnotherapist on top of that.
Nice. A hypnotherapist on top of it. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. I specialize in trauma release hypnosis. And so I work with a lot of SSP, MK-Ultra, super soldiers, people like that.
Wow.
Very nice.
Yeah. I mean, and the groups, your meetups, I mean, are you impressed by the numbers of, like, as far as how vast this is, about how many people are coming forward now and experiencing this type of stuff?
Absolutely. There is just about every other day, one or two people come forward and want to try to find out their answers and find out what's going on with them, coming and joining the group. Every group I have at least one new person, and I have 3 groups a week. So, and then I have all kinds of people, go on my website and contact me through there as well. So there is so many people waking up now, more so than I think has ever been. And part of it was because we were locked down for so long. Locked down for those two years made people go introspective and start looking at their own experiences and doing research and things like that. So I think that really worked against the powers that be wanted it to go. And it worked against them. And so more people are awake and more people are raising their consciousness too.
Right. No, I agree.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, you're sitting around with nothing to do. You're listening to more podcasts. You're watching documentaries, and then you're being activated. You hear information like, wait, was I a part of this? You start going down these rabbit holes.
Yep.
Right. So, I mean, I absolutely agree with you as far as that goes. Just for the people who don't know who you are, and if you, I know we've covered this on the first episode with you, but you want to briefly tell people your story and how you kind of found yourself getting into this?
Okay, well, I'm a experiencer of at least 8 or 9 different types of ETs, including MILAB experiences, military re-abduction, military laboratory abduction as well. And since I was 3 years old, my experiences started. So I've had all kinds of experience throughout my whole life, including the hybrid program. I've been in the hybrid program and then shown 17 children presentations and such. I myself was at 3 years old, really was about the time I was brought into the MK-Ultra. So it's very interesting, the dichotomy that I have these ETs that are my galactic fans and family and friends. And then on the other side, my family and is part of the MK-Ultra family. And so I'm programmed at age 3, partially by my father and by others, taken to psych ward. Actually, it was an asylum that was near my grandmother's house. And so I would be taken out there for training, for trauma-based training and different things like that. That went on. Well, I was put into service at 9 years old. So from about 3 to 9 was, I think, the training, the MK-Ultra training, the electric shock, desensitization, locking you in rooms, locking you in boxes, also working with other children and things like that. The animal bonding, we had a lot of animal bonding. And then, of course, when you're bonded with your animal, they will pull one of your altars that they have made, and the altar will kill the animal, or they might kill the animal, or they might ask you to kill the animal. So there's so many different ways they do it. In my case, was a bunny that I had with the bunny. It was my little pet bunny, but I thought it was a stuffed animal. And one day, after a lot of training and tortures and things like that, they said, take your bunny and wring its neck. So I did, but I thought it was, a stuffed animal.
Wow.
You just follow orders. When they split, and then the splitting is started very early. The splitting is started when you're 3 years old or younger, depending, and that your altars are then started to form, that they're forming your altars. Often they will take, in fact, I think this is exactly what they do. This is my opinion with my research and everything I've worked with people in hypnosis, and is that they have the ability to time travel. They have the ability to use Project Looking Glass, so they can see your past lives. They also know when you come in anyway, so they can see your past lives. And as they look into your past lives, they will find a past life where you've been a seer, or you've been a healer here, or you've been a psychic here, or you've been a monster here, or you've been a killer here, because we experience everything. That's just how humans are. We experience every kind of life, good and bad. And so they'll pull those and put those information into the altar somehow, through drugs and hypnosis and implantation and things like that. And so they start making these altars, and these altars are started from very young age, and they continue until maybe about 11. It's about, I think, is the oldest that they could, do the splintering of the altars and make the altars. So, what else?
Well, I mean, so I have a lot of questions actually. So, I mean, okay. To me, I've heard people talk about this before, even yourself. I think this, like they call MILAB families, like there's a good chance, like, so you say your father was your handler. I mean, who knows what he went through and who was his handler, if he was a part of it, and how far back does this go? Those are the things we need to think of. And also I'm interested on your thoughts or your advice on how you can break that and get out of that cycle.
Yes, indeed, it does go back in the genetic line. So your parents, your grandparents can go all the way back there with that program. In my case, my father was a Rosicrucian, and he became a Rosicrucian when he was a very small child, because his mother was a Rosicrucian. I'm not sure how far that went, but as a child, he was tortured. He talked about being whipped all the time and different things like that. So I know that he went through the mind control torture. Let's see, and the other question you had was, sorry, we're gonna.
Well, I was just wondering if you've like, is this breakable? Like, can we get out of that out of that cycle?
Well, I work with people a lot in integrating their altars, canceling contracts, cutting cords. These are all very, very, very valuable. Yeah. Removing implants, or actually disabling implants as well. So when I'm working with somebody in a regression and we come up with their altars, Um, it's not a type of thing that you can do immediately. It takes a lot of time. It took me years and years to integrate my ultras.
Right. Well, I think it's important to understand that you can do something about it so it doesn't happen to your kids or our kids.
That's right. It stopped at me. It stopped with me. And that's the important thing, is if you can find your healing somewhere, somehow. There's all different kinds of ways to work with people, psychics or different types of readers, work with hypnosis and such, to stop it before it goes on.
So yeah, the whole, what you call it, splitting of the consciousness, you think that stops at age 11 for some reason?
I think that what I've heard, that people who have had it later, I think they find out that, you get into 11, 12, 13, teenagers and such, insanity can happen. That's the people, I think, that split all the way to dissociated identity disorder and are in the psych wards. I think they found out from a lot of failures that there's a certain age that you do it, and when the children are malleable and are able to dissociate, because children commonly do dissociate through their lives with the little injuries and things like that. People do. So they just have what it takes. I mean, they use drugs, they use hypnosis, they use all kinds of different types of trauma in order to do that splitting of the psyche.
Right. And that's what like the Montauk project was about. That's what they were doing at Montauk, and who knows where else around the planet. I'm sure there was a vast system. That's just like the most popular one, but there's probably other versions of that, I would imagine, unfortunately. So, okay, after you're split and you're put into the programs, you have alters and they're being used in God knows what and where. So that your version here on Earth, us, a lot of people experience targeting, like let's just say a targeted individual, like missing time, mind control. Like, have you experienced that with the people that come on your show and in your group and even yourself? Like, do you feel like you're constantly being targeted?
My feeling is, yes, I have had targeting, and I have been put in the hospital for just before both books that I wrote, except for the Galactic. I was put in the hospital just as about the time I was sending it off to the printers for the very last viewing. And I was thinking, okay, well, tomorrow I will publish it. I will absolutely have it published tomorrow. And that day is when I ended up first thinking I had a heart attack, and then it went into other things, and ended up in the hospital for 10 days. And the second book was the very same thing, and that was 5 days. So I think yes, but I feel for me, I have found a way to ignore them, to block them with the help of my galactic family. And I can ignore them by allowing myself. So I see people following me or watching me. If I ignore them, they do go away, I think. Well, as far as the other things, I haven't had targeting like the other people. Day in, day out, day in, day out. So I don't know. I can't walk in their shoes. So I think it's pretty awful what they go through.
Right. I agree. And we have targeted individuals reach out to us. I mean, what they're going through is not fun, unfortunately. And it sounds insane. Like, if you were to go tell a normal person what's happening to you, it's understandable why they would think you're going crazy, because if you don't have an understanding of this type of technology and this information, you're going to be like, man, that guy's nuts. But by ignoring them, you think that it helps, actually. Like, it's just the same with anything. If you feed into it, you're giving it energy, you're giving them power. So if you just act like they're not there, I mean, they're eventually going to get bored with you, right?
I agree. I think so. I think they will. it's not accomplishing what they wanted. So they'll go to somebody else that does freak out, that does get bothered. Now, I would have ringing sometimes, or, sounds in my ear, or I might have a attack on a headache or something like that. Also, I have had where they discombobble your brain and everything, but I don't worry about it. I don't buy into it. I'm not going to let it affect my life. That's just my feeling on it.
Well, that's great advice. I feel like, I mean, it takes a strong mind to be able to do that, because here's the thing though, you know what's happening when it's happening. So you can justify, like, you can explain it. But when people don't understand it and it's happening to them, that's when you start going crazy.
Psychotronic warfare is real, 100%. And I do believe that it's going to be used in the future a lot. I think that the jab has aspects that they're going to be using these psychotronic torture in, or control. So I believe it's not over. I think it's beginning. I'm hoping that the people who've been the guinea pigs for these many years will now be left alone, and then go to the other people that are connected with the jab and the 5G connecting and all of these things. But I'm still researching that. I can't tell you for sure.
Right. There seems to be a link. It's all linked somehow. And they definitely have their agenda. And they have multiple agendas they're trying to push and accomplish. At least now, just from what we're hearing, there's some sort of what am I trying to say? Aaron, help me. Not backlash. I can't think of what I'm trying to say.
Well, there is a secret
pushback. That's what the word I was looking for.
Pushback from the public, for sure, which is amazing. And that's I think they underestimated how many people were going to push back to all the craziness, and also there is a massive war between what people call the white hats or the alliance or the benevolent ETs against these people and the dark ETs that are controlling them ultimately. So there is a lot of pushback on that level that is stopping them from, I think they wanted a lot more to have already happened by now. And because they had that pushback, they haven't been able to. I think they wanted COVID to be way worse than it. I probably shouldn't have said the word, but way worse than it was. I think they wanted to start they've been trying to start World War III for decades and have been thwarted left and right. You got the ET shutting down the nuclear facilities. You've got all these, I think there's been the secret war going on for a long time. There's a lot of evidence of that, and whistleblowers talking about that even. And with help of ETs that have humanity's best interests at heart. And I think a lot of them are karmically connected to us because we have their genetics in us. They were part of, creating who we are. So they're helping right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good news.
Right. I agree with that 100%.
Doesn't mean everything's, doesn't mean there's not going to be some craziness. There already is, obviously, but things could get crazier and worse before they get better.
I would like to speak to one of the craziness things that are happening, in my opinion, is people who are mind controlled with their altars, and many of them become sleepers that can be reactivated later. And I believe that is exactly what we've been seeing for probably 40 years. I mean, the first known one was Sirhan Sirhan. He was a sleeper. He had no idea. Under hypnosis, they found out that even under hypnosis, he still didn't. I mean, he thought he was a monkey. He acted like a monkey. So they can control these people to and meet with them. So like say in a school shooting, I'm going to give you my opinion of the school shooting. I believe that they probably had been working on that young man, maybe throughout his life, and had put an altars in him. All he would have to do is put one altar. They wouldn't even have to go the whole thing about a lot of altars, just one altar that they could access later that was a sleeper, that when the time was right, they turned him on, and they provided the guns and the weapons, and then they sent him in to do whatever they want. And there we go with gun control.
Or the police to not enter, which is why they didn't. The whole
so many
thing,
odd things.
every aspect of that thing was just red flag after red flag when you look into it.
It was red flag, yeah.
It's 100% false flag is what it is.
Yes.
It was definitely false flag with children dying, which was just horrific.
They die. It doesn't mean false flag doesn't mean the children didn't die. They did, absolutely, which is you're correct. It's a horrific thing, but it was an orchestrated false flag for an agenda, obviously. Yeah.
It's just like the WWE doesn't mean somebody still can't get hurt, even though it's staged, but instead people still get hurt. So I definitely think I've actually done, Aaron, you remember the Voice to Skull presentation I did, and I went into all the school shooters, and I went back to like all of the recent ones I can find, and literally every single article, every one of them I found there's one commonality. They all said God told them to do it.
Exactly.
God told them to do it. And what does that tell you? That's Voice to Skull technology. And yes, they've been priming these people for a long time, working on them for a long time, and they're activated and controlled to do something. They don't even know what they're doing. They're completely being used, and it's all for their agenda, for the Second Amendment and whatever else that comes along with it. I agree with you 100% on that.
I was watching an X-Files that had the I don't know what year it was, in the 90s or something, maybe even later, maybe older than that, 60s, I don't know. But that this watchtower where this guy was definitely mind controlled to go up there, take a bunch of guns, and start shooting people. And this was a real event that happened that they depicted in X-Files. So they are not going to stop. And notice where they have them. They have it in Texas, which is let's succeed from the union type of person. Let's have the freedom. And I also heard about one in Oklahoma, which is another state that has that feeling that we want, that we feel that the government is overreaching their authorities and such, to put it lightly.
Right.
So they're trying to make it look like, oh, look at what happens in these states when everyone has guns. It's all psychological manipulation. 100%. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Plus, I have another theory. Can I tell you the other theory?
Absolutely. Bring it on. Bring it on.
All right. The same day that the shooting happened was Bush had a attempted assassination plot that was stopped. Okay, so it was a plot that was stopped, that they stopped, and it was going to assassinate Bush. Later on that afternoon, these children are sacrificed, and I do believe it is retribution for how dare you. I think it was could have been the Alliance trying to take out Bush. I don't know, but it was like, to me, could it possibly be that this is retribution? So you're going to try to mess with us. Look what we're going to do to your most cherished being, your most cherished not really possession, but your children.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could be way off, but I thought that was interesting that Bush and that all happened in the same day within a few hours apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Not a coincidence.
It's interesting you said sacrifice, because that gets me thinking, like, obviously we always talk about these events are aligned astrologically too, and they never waste a date, they never waste an event. So and the locations they choose are also specific because they like to spill blood into the ley line, and that affects the entire planet.
It's a ritual. It's a ritual to them.
So but exactly, there's some sort of a ritual. Like I've heard people say that, like, for any type of event like that on the surface, somewhere underground is a group of people doing an actual ritual, like sending these negative entities and whatever, just to help pull it off. It's disgusting. I hate even thinking about that, but I really think that's what they're doing. Or they were, at least. I mean, I don't know what's going on anymore, but
yeah, I do think so.
Right.
So I just want to step on that. Any other questions?
Oh yeah. No, yeah. We kind of got off on a little tangent there. So you have recall from being in the programs, like recent recall. For the people who don't know, can you share of what some of your time has looked like?
Some of my alters were used as beta slaves. I do absolutely have a recollection that I was on a bus at Nellis Air Force Base with Sirhan. I went to that same, it was a political event, and I went to that same hotel, another woman and myself, to be part of the whole thing. We were just kind of assisting, I guess you'd say. I don't exactly know what I did or remember what I did, other than I was there. We were servicing as well. We're beta slaves, so that would be the main reason that we'd go. But we were also assisting in case something happened with Sirhan. So I know that for a fact about those kinds of things. I was also a courier. I was taken by planes to different countries. I'll give an example. I was picked up, taken on a plane. I was picked up by a limo, then taken to a cobblestone street, walked over to a house, knocked on the door, said my spill, and they said something back, and that meant I was okay for them to come in. And then once I got in, I gave them information, and the information I was giving them was names, dates, places, people, about taking over of a small country. So that was the only thing I remembered about. I was really the only one I looked into remember about that one. But that was, so I knew if I did it once, there was many of them. So I was a courier, and we have a photogenic memory, as well as a photographic memory, where we can remember things and take them back to our handler and give them the information, things like that. Many people are assassins. I don't know. I haven't found out that I'm an assassin per se like that. I don't think I was used as an assassin. I would say, because I was in the very first parts of this. I was also used, I believe, definitely. I was taken in the MK-Ultra programming, like a Montauk type of thing for time travel. I do believe that I had some of those experiences. I believe also that I was, oh God, I'm sorry, my ear thing keeps falling out.
Mm-hmm. You're okay.
Yeah. I believe that I was using some type of space program as well. But I'm still learning those. I'm doing regressions on those. I've had like 17 regressions throughout my life. The first 10 were but 12 were AT stuff to get me back on that. And then the last few have been with the traumas and things like that to help me integrate. So I've only had one regression about my memories of the secret space program, which was the only memory I have, I have as of waking up as 11 years old and being told to put on a uniform, sleeping in a hammock-like thing that was hanging from the wall. I do remember also this wasn't a structure. I know it was a ship of some kind, was very dark, and it was kind of dark in there. It was very loud when you walked. I just remember the loudness when you walked. And when I was in a submarine about, I don't know, in Hawaii about 4 years ago, just going in a submarine, I went, oh my God, this is the feeling. So it kind of felt like a submarine to me. It felt like that. And like I said, we had these beds that came down from the wall, and all they were two probably wires, and then this mesh kind of thing that we slept on, and they gave us a cover. And so they were like piled up on the wall like that. I do remember being after that putting in uniforms and taken out to, not out, but taken to place to look at imageries of ETs and to get to the point of what was scary, what was not. Is this bad? This is good. This is bad, bad, bad. Mostly good and bad. And then also one time being taken outside, being used as bait, in my opinion, to get these insects that had big pinchers on the end of them. And we were the bait where the government would, or not government, the soldiers, super soldiers would kill them and shoot them and stuff. So I remember that. I think from a distance, a human, whether they're 11 years old or 17 years old, can be mistaken for a soldier. And that's what I think they were trying to do, so that it would get them out and then they'd kill them. But some of us would get killed too, or injured. I do remember being injured, caught in the side of the stomach and a chunk being taken out. And I don't remember anything after that. But then in regression, I found out. So these are pieces. I forget this, I remember that. Then you go in, you get pieces, you find out what happened. I was on a med tank, not a bed, but a med tank I was put in, and I was healed from that wound and such.
Right. A regen tank is what some people call them. Okay. So
we called them as kids there, we called them the gen tanks is what we called them.
Oh, interesting. So to me, that's pretty significant recall, honestly, like the details. And you said you were on a submarine in Hawaii and it felt familiar. Well, we know about some of these submarines being repurposed for space shuttles, or space, not shuttles, but you know what I mean? Spaceships, craft. There's a good chance that you could have been on an actual submarine and whenever you were remembering those, sleeping on those beds.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been, but I don't remember. I know we weren't on water, but it could have been. And in those with the secret space, I do not remember seeing space actually, but I do remember in my experience with ETs seeing space.
Interesting. I mean, that's the thing about these secret space program. We call it secret space program, but a lot of these people are used on Earth for missions. And who knows if there's an earthly program going on. They may never even make it off planet. It just depends on, specifically what they want you to do. And obviously they're using everybody for different abilities, and different people are targeted for gifts and past lives and things they've done, so each person is unique, as far as why they need them.
Well, their experience and such. So also later on, I remember, so I've got 11 years old and then no memories whatsoever, nothing at all until I'm like probably 24 to 26. And I was working with super soldiers as a guide, consultant, tutor, whatever you want to call it, not training them to do weaponry or training them for combat, but sending them to the classes for those things. And I felt that it was that people were dying a lot. And so I didn't want that to happen. So I felt that it was a really good idea that they teamed up. So teamed up as teams, either partners or either group teams. And so I was, I'll put it this way. Why I even thought about this is possible, because I didn't really remember this, is I was doing 2 different regressions, and the people during the regression, when they were in their theta state, said, and you were there. One guy told me, you were the, what did he call me? He called me something like, I can't remember what it was. It was kind of detrimental, kind of a call. But you were the one controlling us. You were the controller. You were controlling the super soldiers. And the other woman said, you were a lot like what you do here. You help people, you connect them, and you teach them how to work and help each other and stuff. So that was her look on it. So I want to do more regressions really before I do much more talking. That's the only memory I have. It may not even been in space. It
Right.
I have a lot of MILAB experiences. I have a lot of MILAB underground bases, a lot of memories of underground bases. Could the underground bases be off planet? I don't know. So I just consider myself part of the secret space program, but I'm not sure if I've been out in space yet. But I know I have been in space because of the fight. I know there's none of those insectoids on this planet. So that way I know I was there for at least some amount of time. I don't know about 20 and back or any of that.
It's funny you keep saying that you don't know much, but you have a lot. You have a lot to work with there. Excuse me. I'm not ready to tell the story yet, but I've had a recall, I would say, or an experience where I've seen you also.
Me?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Oh.
You. Yeah. So I mean,
There you
it's first time, but it's
okay. Well, we'll have to talk about it privately.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah,
we will
yeah.
because it's interesting. There's no coincidences, I don't think. So the interesting thing about all of this is it doesn't seem like I always thought like maybe you got to a certain age and you started getting your memories back or whatever the case may be. I think it's just like whatever's happening right now, for some reason, like everyone across the board is just being activated and getting their memories back, because we have people all across the spectrum now remembering things. And even some children and teenagers that I know have memories already at their young age, and they're getting bleed through of things that they're doing, and they're coming home and are waking up and telling their parents about it. It's pretty amazing. Like it just seems like whatever's happening right now it's all happening at once to everybody. And I'm sure you see, obviously we talked about that earlier with your groups and your support groups. What made you decide to want to start doing that? Were you just wanted to help everybody, or how did you fall into that?
No, actually, it was in 1989. I was doing UFO. It's called UFO Contact Center International. I was the director of it in my state, which was at Nevada, and I was bringing in speakers, and so after we would finish with the speakers, then we'd open it up to questions, and I would have people come and stand up and say, "Well, what do you know about abduction, or this or that?" And my galactics would say in my ear, almost exactly these words. They'd say, "Beloved, it's time for you to start your support group." And I said, "Oh no, I can't do that." And then the next week, same kind of thing. And this went on. And then I got this one girl stood up and said, "I'm so alone. I can't walk down my hall. I have to have the lights on. I'm terrified." And this was now the third time somebody had stood up and said something about it. And they said, "Beloved, it is now time to start the support group." And they said it in a firm but loving energy, because they'd already told me 2 other times. And so at that time I stood up and I said, "Thank you for the guest." And I said, "I want to tell everyone I'm going to come to the back of the group. I'm going to be starting a support group." So I did. So from there, I started the support group for men and women. I had a women's group. I had a men's group. I had a teen and a young adult group, because my sons were teens and they needed that help. And then I had a parents and children's support group and with the parents and children's, we would go and I'd have them draw pictures before they came to group of their experience, and then we talk about them when we got there. And so that's why I did it, because the Galactics said it was time for me to do it. It was my mission.
Right. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's amazing.
And you would think that after listening to so many people share their stories, it'd start to trigger your own stuff as well. And I'm sure the people in the group have been just as supportive for you as you have been for them.
That's absolutely. I think it's so important. And, I'm only one person. If there's other people who start these groups, that's good. That's good. Especially in other countries with other languages and stuff. There should be these kind of groups. If you can't have them in your home, because a lot of people don't, but I do now I'm having them in my home again. But if you don't, then have them on Zoom. It costs some money to, do that kind of a Zoom meeting group, but it's really worthwhile. It's really worthwhile helping people. And a lot of people are being drawn to help in so many ways.
Well, everybody's finding their place right now. Everyone has a role, in through this awakening and disclosure, whatever. And I think anytime somebody can find purpose in their mission, it's exciting, because we're always going through life. Like whenever you go through the awakening, you hear about everybody talking about their missions, but no one, what's my mission? What's my mission? Like, I don't know. How am I supposed to know? But then slowly that evolves and you figure it out. But
once you get in touch with your galactics, that's the best way to find out your mission, is getting in touch with your galactic.
Right. Guides, galactics, whatever you want to call it.
Your angels, whoever you work with,
right.
Jesus, whoever you work with.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the hybrid program a little bit.
Okay.
As far as you mentioned earlier, you said 17 children you've been shown.
Wow.
So I know I've heard it's some pretty wild out there numbers from people, like as far as how many hybrid children they've had. Can you explain? We've talked about this before, but there's always new people tuning in. Can you explain what this hybrid program is and how they're pulling it off and what's the purpose of it?
Okay, so there's many different hybrid programs, I believe, and there are many different galactic groups that are doing aliens, if you want to call them galactic or aliens, that are doing these hybrid programs. There's also not military. There's a MILAB hybrid programs. There's probably even off-planet hybrid programs as well. So all they need is a woman's eggs, first of all, and the man's sperm to be in the hybrid program. They'll also take genetics from people, and they can add genetics. So you can have two fathers, one mother, and alien DNA. You can have it that way. They'll do different things like that. They do all kinds of different genetics they're working on. Let me see what else. And I think these are the positive experiences. So I'll give you an example. Well, for instance, the Zeta Reticuli say that their planet used to be very much, and they used to be very much like us, except that due to war and due to other disease and things like that, the women could not procreate anymore, and the women could no longer give birth. So they started cloning, but they realized this wasn't good. It ended. The clones didn't last. They died fast. So they wanted to start this genetic program. So that's just one of the programs. And I will say that because that is one of the ones I was in. So in mine, they would, however they did the genetics, they'd come and take the eggs. They would go and add genetics to the eggs, and then they put the eggs back into me, shall we say. And then in some cases, they just take the eggs and do whatever they wanted with them. We produce a lot of eggs, so that's why women, you can have 17 plus type amount of children. So all they need is the eggs. And they can even splice the eggs from that. So there's all kinds of genetic things that they do. Let me see. Another way is they inseminate you on board the planet, on board the ship, like a man, maybe take a man up, have and a lot of times it's already a hybrid female that they'll have them have sex with. And then the same thing with women. Sometimes they'll have sex. I mean, it's with different groups. I'm not saying this happens all the time. All right. But I am saying that For instance, my son was in a UFO and saw and this almost an orgy thing going on, and other people have talked about this. And and it really was an orgy with each other. It was just a lot of different people. And he met his future wife, and so when he met that future wife, and they had the child, that was the design that they had for this particular genetic program. And so there's just so many different genetic programs, and I don't know how else to explain any more about that.
Well, whenever they come and, like, to say, take your eggs and then bring it back, how do they accomplish that? I mean, do you have any recall?
Oh, through the belly button. For me, they would go through my belly button. And they also did gynecological. They would take the eggs gynecologically. The gynecology, I think, is the way that they would take the eggs, but they also did something through our belly buttons, whether it was in inseminating the ovaries, or doing something with the fetus, checking on it, whatever it was. But
right,
a lot of women get crusty belly buttons. Let's put it that way. Blood happens.
I've heard a woman explain she had missing time one night, or she knew something happened, and she was a remote viewer. I'll leave her name out of it, but she wanted to, somehow she was able to view. She was a seer or whatever. She wanted to see what they did to her, and when she viewed it, she saw them come in the room, and she said they literally had like a blue laser, and they cut an incision in her lower abdomen and pulled the eggs out that way, and then they used that same laser to close it up, and it didn't even leave a scar. And
that's interesting.
That's what she saw.
That's weird. You know how interesting that is because there has been, including myself, right there where you're talking about, it seemed like it was like a hairline scar, but it was gone. It disappeared.
Right.
Like you saw it, but it did disappear within a short amount of time. So that makes a lot of sense. I actually haven't really researched to find out how. So that could be.
And that blue laser technology is depicted a lot in movies and Star Trek, and as a healing device. They'll be able to just hit somebody with that blue laser, and they'll heal their wound right up. So there's disclosure there. Okay, so then there's this hybrid program. They make these children. They do this. What are they using them for? Is this for space programs? What's the purpose?
Well, I believe that they are, in many cases, they are. Sometimes they'll stay on board the ship. Sometimes they'll be taken to another planet. Sometimes they're there to populate other planets. I believe the Zeta Reticuli definitely, the ones I had encounters with, I believe, did indeed take back because they knew cloning wasn't working. So they would take these hybrid children back. Since hybrid children cannot live here, they can't live in the density, they can't live in the pollution. They can't live here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Unless you have a different hybrid program, which is that other hybrid program where they're genetically manipulating, changing, adding things to women's babies that are in their fetuses, and perhaps they do it before. I don't know, but these kids are born on planet Earth, and they are hybrid children. There's a lot of hybrid children coming. They believe that they are, in fact, this is exactly the term they said. They said that we believe that when the time of great change comes, you'll be able to connect up and see your hybrid children. The children that are being born on this planet are like, they don't have the reptilian fight or flight kind of brain. They change things about them so that they can be not be in such a warring way, because the only way that we're going to get off this planet is if we stop our warring ways, because they don't want us out there otherwise. And so I do believe that the hybrid children that are being born now, maybe in the last 20 years, I don't know, but especially now, they're intelligent savant. I also think that there has something to do with the autism, more the Asperger's, not really the autism. Autism has to do with the jab a lot too, but Asperger's and very savant, intelligent kids. So I believe that's a whole nother program. And I have 2 grandchildren. Actually, I think I have 3 grandchildren that are in the hybrid program. That one has this huge big head when he was born that we couldn't even get a shirt over his head. It was so big. Oh, wow. And I also found something out the other day when I was doing my night vision tours out here in Las Vegas that I do through Airbnb. I was talking to a lady. I would do readings, and I was telling her that part of what she does is to help heal people and help children. And she says, well, I'm a nurse. I'm a surgery nurse in the children's ward. And and then I showed her the picture of my grandson. And she said, oh my goodness, these are just like the kids that we get, like one a week. I said, and she said, and they have big heads like this, and they do surgery to make their heads smaller.
Wow.
Why do they do that? Why are they doing that? Why are they making these kids' heads smaller? I don't know. I mean, they don't want them to have the bigger craniums, but still, all these kids that I've met that are hybrids are so intelligent, so intelligent. I think they have bigger brains or more activated brains, but by them doing the surgery, are they stomping it down? I don't know. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
She didn't either. She's, oh my God, I didn't know we were doing something like that. That would be not that's not right. And of course he was, he's now 14. So that was like 14 years ago, but now they're fixing, I said, so you're treated them like they have a birth defect of some kind. Yeah.
Right. That's sad that they're doing that, actually, because the only reason they're doing it is for cosmetically, because they won't fit in. They'll look weird or different, It's
I also heard someone say once that depending on how much the hybrid looks like a human, they'll let it live on Earth because it'll blend in. But if it looks too ET like, that would be, wouldn't blend in, then they that's one factor I've heard. And then, like you said, that maybe like some aren't able, because of the pollution and the density, aren't even able to survive here. But then I've heard a lot of people say there's millions of hybrids on our planet.
I agree. Millions.
People in the community I've heard say they are themselves a hybrid. They claim they're like a human and Arcturian hybrid, or a human Pleiadian hybrid, different things like that.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting that you said they're manipulating the DNA to take the fight or flight out of it, because that is really key.
Our DNA has been shut down. Like, that's the whole junk DNA thing. It's in us. It's just been deactivated. So it's maybe they're able to activate their DNA.
Or maybe like the fight or flight was like, maybe we've been altered to have like this like elevated fight or flight, because of the dark controllers, and everything. But now that like someone else might be in charge, they're able to like tune it back down to normal. And we can evolve without constantly warring, like you said.
And the reptilian brain, like you were saying, that was put in us, I think, for that reason. And then they try to keep us locked. They try to keep us locked into our reptilian brain, to keep us in fight or flight, to keep us in a low state of consciousness, so it can be controlled and manipulated in that way. But what we see now is, humans are starting to get past that, and they're desperate to keep us in that state. So you see them freaking out, trying to their mind control isn't working the way it used to. The manipulation is not working the way it used to. It is to certain people, and it depends on where everyone's at, obviously. Some people are very much being manipulated, like it's just unbelievable.
By the college students.
Zombified. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. The people with student loans. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you see,
I just see that there's so much programming that they're doing in school, in the colleges and such, to keep them apathetic and change their mind, and all of the different the pronouns is the pronouns the pronouns.
Right.
So I think they started that all in college, and so you just talk to a college student, most, not all, but a lot of the college students are programmed to believe the government, to believe all that they hear. So that's a problem. Also, the teenagers are all programmed to play the games and fight in the games. And I think that's also programming that they're doing too, because what a better way to find out if somebody can be a super soldier than to have them play, I don't know, Halo or whatever the other games are and stuff. So I think there's still a lot of mind control going on from the darker side, shall we say.
Yeah,
there definitely is.
Massively. Yeah. I mean, it's still, I mean, like all the stuff, the virus, the shootings, like all the stuff is totally ineffective if they don't have the media, if they don't have a way to spread. It doesn't even happen. Like there would have been no virus if we didn't have a mainstream media. Like we would have just kept living our lives. You know what I mean? And the same with everything else. And that's what they're using to mind control and manipulate. And then some people, depending on what types of family they're born into and stuff, are more easily manipulated than others, just based on, I think, their DNA or whatever, whatever the case may be. But I agree. It hasn't stopped until the media goes away, until we see some sort of major shift in that area. Then we'll know we're on the right path for sure.
Project Mockingbird. It started right about the time TV started. So it's been in play for a long time, and now it's in full force, and it's part of the mind control program that's going on this planet.
Yeah. It's backfiring though, because so many people are waking up because they're so insane with it right now, and it's so in your face. With how just insane it all is, and I've lost track of how many people I've heard say they woke up for that reason, or they woke up, around when COVID first hit, or in the last couple of years, because of the insane propaganda, the insane agendas, and that's all in your face. How zombified people are, all these reasons. These insane false flags that are obviously false flags. It's waking people up, that I think it's like a catalyst in a good way for that reason. So I think, you could say it's divinely letting that play out to a certain degree because of that reason, maybe. But it's not, I don't think, because then there's a lot of people that get doom and gloom, that they see all this stuff and they think, oh, we're all doomed because look at the way things are going, look at what's happening. And they kind of like lose hope. You see that a lot too. And I see it I see it the opposite. I see it as a very good sign. I see it as, I would be worried if things were smooth sailing. If it was the opposite, I would be worried, because then that means they're still fully in control. The dark's still fully in control. They have nothing to worry about, because they're not going to start exposing themselves with all that stuff. And the fact that I see the craziness and so many people waking up, I take it as a good sign. Doesn't mean it's not going to get worse before it gets better. I think it probably will to a certain degree.
Right. No, it's a
catalyst for awakening and change.
That's a great analysis of all that. I agree.
And what you focus on, we create. We're the ones creating this reality. So
right. Going back to the hybrids really quick. So as far as, we have these hybrids being born now. I wonder how they're accomplishing that. Is it the same way, as far as they would take the eggs, bring them back, and then the baby's just born here, or is this just in the DNA already? How is that happening?
Well, I think in some cases the hybrids are giving birth to hybrids, but it would have been hybrids that had that genetic manipulation, and now as hybrids they give birth to hybrids themselves. So, but I'm sure there's still that other going on. But I think
So
yeah, I just think that.
what about the free will aspect of all this? Because we're talking about this like we're just so used to it. And this is very traumatic for some people to think about and have these realizations. And it's infringing on our free will. Like, how does that happen? Or what's going on with that?
Well, I'll give you an example. When I take people in hypnosis back to the life before they came to Earth, we are not ignorant of what is going to happen to us. I believe, my opinion is that we've but we've made agreements and contracts with some of the very, very good things experienced and on some of the very, very bad things as well. Because we're higher beings, very high conscious beings from all different planetary groups. And we look at Earth as, oh, no big deal. We can handle this. Until you get down here, then you realize it's harder than we thought. But I keep finding people having contracts to be hybrid parents, not having children of their own on this, maybe because they didn't want to, sometimes because they had really bad childhoods themselves that they didn't want kids, but they also are hybrid parents, or maybe having one child and then or two and then hybrids. But I do believe there's so many different hybrid programs. It's hard to tell for sure, but I think all of them you've had a contract. I think you've agreed to do it in some way. Now, if you're talking about the ones that were negative and stuff, by the fact that they conned you into it, maybe they conned you into it. Maybe your experience was that they said that you can help our civilization if you'll help us with the hybrid program, and it was a lie. Maybe it was a lie.
Right.
We still got conned, and saying yes to that is a contract.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's free will.
You can nullify your contracts in this life, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. I have people do it all the time in the sessions where they cancel all the contracts, burn them up, and as if they never happened. Things like that. So you can cancel you.
Right.
The other part of the hybrid thing is the MILAB, shall we say, the government hybrid programs. And I believe that's a whole different reason for them. I believe they use us as, well, the fact that we are part of their species and they use us with the Greys or the different groups in the genetic program in the underground bases to make soldiers or to make psychics, to make translators or interfacers or different things like that. So that I think that's not a very good positive thing, because I can understand it better if those people really have a problem in their planet and they do need help. But with us, why do we have a hybrid program? I remember seeing a hybrid reptilian in the underground base. Not really a reptilian. It's more like a Draco. It's like a little dinosaur, raptor looking thing. It was not as human as some of the hybrid reptilians. It was very non-human. Whereas the reptilian hybrids that I've been shown because I have had some reptilian hybrids, I don't consider them draconians, I consider them reptilians, and I have had presentations of them. They have a lot more human features, very human. Basically, a lot more human and other than their scale or their skin might be the thing that's different. So,
well, would that be they call them reptarians? They're reptilians who were born on Earth and they didn't come from anywhere else but Earth. So they call those like Terra reptarians.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting. That makes sense. I will tell you, I was in an underground base once with a reptilian, and I said to him telepathically, because that's one of the reasons they took me, because I interface with aliens and talk to them, both galactic speaking languages and also interfacing. But I would say to him, why are you invading our planet? What did you do? What did we do to you? Now, this wasn't a particularly bad experience, but it was with government was there and he was there. He wasn't one of the ones that looked more like the Dracula, was one that more looked like a lizard. And so I asked him that, and he showed me this imagery and said to me telepathically, "We're not the invaders, you are. We were here long before you." And then he shows me these dinosaurs and prehistoric animals, and they're all running, and they're running from all these comets. And I'm told by him that those comets are being directed by technology, by other aliens, galactics, and that these are weapons for the extinction. And he says, and we who were smarter and then more intelligent went underground and evolved to who you see before you.
Wow.
So I felt after that, I did not look at all the lizards, reptilians the same way.
No, you can't. It's just like us. We say this a lot, and there's duality. There's both benevolent and malevolent of every species.
Yeah.
And going back to what you said earlier about us signing up for this, and then also, I think that also happens with the programs as well. Like, you're going to come down here and be a hybrid mother. You also know you're going to come to Earth and be abducted into the programs, maybe so you can come back and then be part of the disclosure of that program. Who knows what the reason is, but I definitely think because a lot of it's terrible. No one wants to imagine that they would have signed up for something so dark and horrific. So you just have to wonder, like, were you willing to take that sacrifice for the betterment of humanity?
It's possible that the end justifies the means. And unfortunately, though, even though a negative and horrific experiences you've had, you have seen the ugliest, and now it's time to come into the light. So you're able to become a better human, maybe in the next lifetime, or even in your own lifetime. The people who have had some of the worst experiences are the nicest people. A lot of them are the nicest people,
and I
believe they become better people from it.
They become better people. They have all that wisdom, and then now they can help people get through that because they've been through it all.
Because they've been there.
Exactly.
Because they've been there. I definitely. It's interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Well, I guess we'll start wrapping this up. I know you said you had to get going, so. Can you let people know where to find you and how they can listen to your show and all that stuff?
Okay. Well, my show is on every Saturday from 12 to 2 p.m. at Pacific Standard Time, and it is KCORradio.com. Of course, you can go to my website, starseedawakening.org, and you can find all of the things, my radio, find my night vision tours. You can find my hypnosis, how you could book for the hypnosis. I also do galactic readings to help you find out what your mission is, or what, along with the cards and the oracle cards, to help you find out what has happened in your life, what is your mission, what you can see happening in the future, and things like that. I have my books there, so you can also go to the virtual groups, and you can go and join and be a member of my virtual groups. And it's very, very inexpensive. I did start charging just so I could, because I ultimately have a goal to get off of the Zoom or anything like that can be listened to. So I'm going to be moving into some kind of a business kind of
I got you. Something more
meeting something more secure. Right. So anyway, so it's very inexpensive. I have 3 groups a week. They're all different. Like my group coming up in tomorrow actually is the Galactic Light Language Channeling Automatic Writing group, and then I have a group about reptilians. I have a group about good and bad experiences, I have a group about Greys, good and bad experiences in Greys. I have MK-Ultra, SRA, trafficking, all of that. I have a group about secret space program veterans, military veterans, and the very unusual things that happened in all of the wars that have to do with the space and the UFOs and space program and things like that. And I have a twin flame or divine counterpart group, hybrids groups.
That's why
you name it, I have it.
That's why I thanked you when we started this, because I know what it takes. I mean, that's a full-time job. There's no way to do that. I mean, the amount of effort and energy it takes to put into that and pull that off and help all those people is very much appreciated. And I'm sure you've helped a lot of people along the way. And thank you for what you're doing. Seriously.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's my mission. And my mission changes all the time. They are always adding things to my mission. Sometimes I have to go, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm just one person here.
Slow down.
Yeah, slow down. But yeah, they do. And now within my readings, they're even adding mediumship and all kinds of different things about it. The wonderful thing about this is everybody is psychic. Everybody is intuitive. Everybody in this that is born on this planet is all of these things. They just have to remember that they are, and then start doing it and using it. I mean, when people start really waking up in masses, there's going to be more people needed, more and more people needed. So, hone up your intuitive skills and become the psychic that you are. And so you can help people and healers and all of the other things that are out there. So much is needed. So much is needed.
That was a beautiful message to end on. Yes. Thank you for saying that. I agree with you. That was absolutely beautiful. We'll have all the links below for all your stuff where people can find you, because they're certainly going to be asking. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know we got off to a rough start with the tech issues, but we made it. And I hope everybody enjoyed this. Thank you for joining us. And thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for your love and support and your donations. And until next time, have a great evening.